Good morning and welcome to East Castle Place's weekly Bible study. I am Chaplain Harold Epley. It's good to be with you. If you saw me last week, you might notice that I finally got a haircut. After like 3 months, I guess, of having my hair starting to flop into my eyes, I can actually see you all. Actually, I can't see you, but I know you're out there and I know you're watching and I miss seeing you, and glad you've tuned in today for this Bible study. We are going to continue reading from the book Dancing in the Aisle, Spiritual Lessons We Have Learned from Children, a book that was written by my wife Rochelle Melander and myself a number of years ago. And this is a good source for our Bible study because it takes stories from the lives of children and looks at the spiritual lessons that we as adults can learn from their experiences. And of course, we have all been children, and we all know children, and can relate to those experiences. Today, we have an interesting title for our Bible study. It's Stop Fussing and Enjoy the Scenery. Stop fussing and enjoy the scenery. And those are some words taken from a little girl who was talking to her sister on a long road trip in the car. And you're probably familiar with long road trips in the car, maybe when you were younger, or if you had kids, you know that can be a time when people start to feel quite impatient. So we're looking at patience, and we're looking at being present and enjoying what is in front of us instead of always being focused on the future or the past. That's our theme for today, and we're going to start with a scripture which is a story way back in the Old Testament, but it's actually a story of, I guess if you want to call it, a road trip. It was the trip that was taken through the wilderness by the people of Israel under the leadership of Moses. And if you recall the story, they escaped from slavery in Egypt, passed through the Red Sea, and their road trip ended up taking 40 years. Talk about a long one. But a lot of that had to do with the fact that the Israelites were not very patient people, and they were prone to complaining and mumbling and grumbling to Moses and to God, and saying, oh, things aren't going the way we want them to go. And as a result of that, the Israelites ended up wandering all over the place in the wilderness before they actually got to the promised land where God was taking them, leading them under Moses. So today we have a lesson from the book of Numbers, chapter 21. If you have your Bible and you want to follow along, I'm going to be beginning at verse 4 in chapter 21 of the book of Numbers. And this is, they've been out in the wilderness for a while, and this is an experience where they start complaining again, the people of Israel, and it tells how Moses responds to them. It says, "From Mount Hor they set out by the way to the Red Sea, to go around the land of Edom. But the people became impatient on the way. The people spoke against God and against Moses. 'Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no food and no water, and we detest this miserable food.' Then the Lord sent poisonous serpents among the people, and they bit the people so that many Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, 'We have sinned by speaking against the Lord and against you. Pray to the Lord to take away the serpents from us.' So Moses prayed for the people. And the Lord said to Moses, 'Make a poisonous serpent and set it on a pole, and everyone who is bitten shall look at it and live.' So Moses made a serpent of bronze and put it upon a pole, and whenever a serpent bit someone, that person would look at the serpent of bronze and live." Okay, this follows the pattern of a lot of the other adventures of the people of Israel in the wilderness, in that God is leading them somewhere. They get impatient, they complain, they sin against God, and usually there's some kind of punishment, as we see in this story with the serpents coming. But in the end, God forgives them and continues to lead them. And so there's this pattern of they make a mistake and then God forgives them and they go on the way again. And that goes on and on through the 40 years that they're wandering through the wilderness. I always find that interesting because, as I mentioned earlier, on our long road trips, we have a tendency to complain as well. And I'm using road trip as a metaphor here. I mean, it can be a literal trip in the car. You certainly can complain about that, but life itself can feel like a road trip. And right now, with this coronavirus and everybody being quarantined, this can be a time when we're prone to doing some complaining, right? If our goal is to get through this, it seems like it's taken an awful long time some days, right? And so I think this is a timely meditation for us and a reminder to focus on the present and see the blessings that are right here, right now, that God is blessing us in this time. So, I will read this devotion now. Stop fussing and enjoy the scenery. At least twice a year, one of our friends, a single mother of 2 daughters, packs her children and what seems like most of their belongings into their station wagon. After checking to make sure that everyone has been to the bathroom and loading 3 bags of snacks, they begin the 200-mile drive to Grandma's house. 10-year-old Susan has been on the trip enough times to know that the drive can be agonizingly long. And so on a recent trip, when her younger sister asked an inevitable question, Susan was ready with the answer. "Mommy, are we almost there?" asked 6-year-old Marin after half an hour on the road. "Shh," replied Susan. "Don't bother Mom. She's driving. We'll get there when we get there." "But this is taking forever," whined Marin. "How much longer?" "Shh," replied Susan again. "Now stop fussing and enjoy the scenery." No doubt a 200-mile trip in the car can seem like an eternity to a 6-year-old. Yet young children are not the only ones who hate to wait. It's been said that we live in a quick-fix society. If we feel hungry, most of us can pop a meal into the microwave or head to our nearest fast food restaurant. In a matter of minutes, we can consume enough calories to last the rest of the day. If we're short on cash, we can stop at an automatic teller machine and in seconds have enough money to buy an entire wardrobe. And if all else fails, we can usually take out a plastic card and buy whatever we think we need on credit. In our goal-oriented culture, if we aren't immediately satisfied, we join young Marin's plea, "How much longer?" But we certainly aren't the first human beings on this earth to whine about just how long it takes to arrive at our destination. The ancient Israelites, freed from slavery, journeyed in the wilderness to the promised land. The journey took an unexpectedly long chunk of time, 40 years. Even in that slower-paced society, 40 years was a long time. In fact, for some, it was a lifetime. The Israelites certainly let God and Moses know of their dissatisfaction. They kvetched and complained, moaned and groaned, even reminisced about the good old days when they toiled as slaves in Egypt. We wonder what they were missing while they were complaining. Did they notice the extraordinary sunsets spread all pink and red across the evening desert sky? Did they relish the feel of hot sand between their toes? Did they look around in amazement at God's gift of manna, food in a barren land? Or were they too focused on getting to the end of their journey to enjoy the process? In our modern impatience, in our desire for fulfillment, we too sometimes miss seeing the gifts of the journey. Big Sister Susan advised Marin to stop fussing and enjoy the scenery. How many of us, impatient to get going and get on with it, need to hear Susan's advice? We feel so busy and divided as we juggle responsibilities at work and home that we do not stop for even a moment to breathe and acknowledge life's daily blessings. A popular magazine featured an article on time management for busy women. It encouraged the reader to get more accomplished each day by doing 2 or 3 tasks at once. Don't just cook dinner, the article advised. Do squats while you slice vegetables. And so those of us who are already 6 years behind on our to-do lists feel chastised because we can't manage to complete enough tasks. We certainly aren't coordinated enough to master squats and vegetable cutting without a major catastrophe. Perhaps it's time to throw away that article and listen to Susan. Stop fussing and enjoy the scenery. At this time, in this moment, in the here and now, we possess only the present and all of its joys and all of its sorrows. God has given us the present as a gift. When we stand in the present and look around at all we have, piled before us like gifts beneath the Christmas tree, and we stop saying, "But I didn't get everything I wanted," and instead we look to God and say, "Thank you," we begin to experience the gift of contentment. We remember how very blessed we are. Our friend has told us that the family's trips have become much more bearable since Susan has taught Marin how to enjoy the scenery. On a recent trip, she reported hearing Susan say to Marin, "If you lean back and stare out the windows at the sky, you can see the clouds. And each cloud can be a face. Hey, there's Goldilocks. What do you see, Marin?" Okay, that's the devotion for this week. Hopefully some food for thought as you think about your own situation, your own journey through life, if you will. And we have a couple of discussion questions here that you could reflect on. The first one is, what are some of the times in your life that you needed to hear Susan's words, "Stop fussing and enjoy the scenery"? Take some time and kind of reflect back. Have there been times in your life, and we all have times that are more hectic than others, but when it was really hard for you to just see the blessings that were right in front of you? And I know that's true for many young parents at that stage in life, because they're so tired and busy and maybe managing a job as well as trying to raise a family, that sometimes it's easy for them to lose sight of what a blessing having that family is. But even as we get older, we can really start to overlook things because we take them for granted. So think about your life, think about your situation in the past and now, and remember that scenery right before you is a blessing from God. Second question here is, at what times in your life do you most crave a quick fix, and why? The society we live in today, as we mentioned in here, sort of the microwave society. If you want to eat, you can pop it in the microwave, and in a matter of minutes, there's your meal. But that applies to so many other things. You know, the ATM machine, certainly being on the computer, you can go online and look something up in a matter of seconds that you'd have to go to the library to look up many years ago. So we've got this kind of instant culture that we live in, and I think it's really made us impatient about a lot of things. And I know when I'm on the computer and maybe my internet connection isn't so good, and I'm like, oh, this isn't loading, and I get impatient about a silly thing like that. Something that wouldn't have bothered me a few years ago because I wasn't so inclined to expect everything to be instant. So I think we all have been kind of gotten attuned to that, and that can make us more impatient. So think about the quick fix. When are you looking for the quick fix in your life? And this last question here, think about your life as a car trip. I said, kind of using that as a metaphor. And consider these questions. At what times have you been primarily focused on reaching your destination? When did you enjoy the process of traveling? So, as we go through life, yes, indeed, I said this right now, this time that we are being under quarantine, could be a time when we're all focused on reaching our destination, right? We're looking at things opening up again and getting back to what we call our normal life, right? And doing all those things we enjoy around here at East Castle. And because we're so focused on that, sometimes we can miss what's right before us. And go take a look out your window right now, right? Look out the window and maybe you see birds, maybe you see plants. That's the scenery right before you. God is blessing you, even if your apartment feels very small right now, or the space you're living in feels very small. There are blessings all around you, and it's just a matter of kind of being open to them and seeing them. So, those are the questions for you to reflect on. I hope this has been a meaningful Bible study this week, and look forward to seeing you again next week. Hang in there. God bless you, and look forward to seeing you again very soon. Peace be with you.